Hey guys, it's Christina here. That just reminded me I need to take some of that. Okay, so I know I've done a live already, but I wanted to come and do another one because for those of you who don't know me, my name is Christina and I am a naturopath, herbalist, GAPS practitioner, life coach, mindset strategist, all of the things. I amplify your life, your health, and your business. And when I say business, I mean I actually work with other practitioners and coaches and healers and help them sort of, my hair, fan just blew hair on my mouth, and actually work with them to help them grow their business and help them actually expand their message and actually reach a bigger audience. Because for me, there is not a shortage of sick people in the world. There is not a shortage of people who actually need the health, the wealth, and the knowledge of those people who know the healing arts. And so I am on a mission to help as many people as I possibly can with their own transformation when it comes to looking after their bodies, looking after their mind, looking after their spirit, all of those things. I'm on a mission to help as many people as I can. But I am one person. I am only able to do what I can do. And yes, while I may be able to hold capacity for a lot of people, and I would love lots of people to be in my courses, I think that there is lots and lots of space for other people in the healing arts as well. And so I coach a lot of these people and I tell them, what are the things that I did to help me grow my audience? How did I change my mindset to be able to show up and do things like this Facebook Live? How did I do all those actual steps in being able to create a business? Because, if you've been around this space for a little while, I have 7 children that we homeschool. And so I want to be able to keep my children in the ability to have choices. So for example, we're currently having these discussions about the COVID vaccine. And, of course, we're seeing employers come out and say things like, well, all my employees are going to have to get this vaccine to be able to stay employed, which I think is absolutely discriminatory against a medical thing. I think it's absolutely discrimination. It shouldn't be allowed, but that's a side note. I want my family to be able to have choices, and in order for them to have choices, I need to be financially stable in order to be able to give them those choices. So money absolutely has to be a part of our conversation when it comes to living our lives. And one of the things that I find with a lot of healers is that they're very heart-centered people. They are people who really care. They are people that just want to see others healthy, thriving, and living a beautiful life and have access to all of that type of stuff. And so a part of my conversation that I often find that I'm having with my people who are in those healing arts is charging for things. And it was definitely something that I had to go through my own throes about as well when I started to put a price on how much it is to work with me in a particular container. I had to go through the throes of that, the throes of who am I to actually charge for things? Is it this information should be free? And I've had people message me and tell me off for charging a price for my services and telling me that this knowledge should be for free. And I'm like, well, it kind of is. If you really want to spend the 17 years that I've spent learning all of this knowledge that I have collated and brought to you, you can totally spend that and go for it. Absolutely go for it. I implore you to do that. I implore you to learn the knowledge that I've learned. You'll never get exactly the same knowledge that I have, because you'll never have exactly the same experiences and the same little intricacies that I've had in my, journey that brings my sort of, flavor to what it is that I do. So I've had people message me and tell me off for charging things. But here's what I had to get to. And that was, hey, Kerry, nice to see you here. What I had to get to was that your time is your most precious commodity. It's the most precious thing that you have available to you. So when I had my life experience where I died and then I came back, it brought that really into light for me. Like, I'd always thought, yes, time is precious, and it's because I had little children, and you know, when you've got a baby, that goes so fast. It's like, it takes forever for that pregnancy to get to the fruition. Like, especially first time mums, it can feel like it's like forever to get through that 9/10 months. But on the other side, once that baby's born, the first day is gone like that. The second day is gone like that. The first week, it's like, oh my God, did a week go by? The second week has gone, and you can see like your baby is changing in like minutes. It's changing, you know, within those first couple of months, it's already changed from like this squishy little baby to now is able to look at you and smile and start to interact with you. So it's growing and it's changing all of the time. And so I've always kind of known that time was really precious, and I wanted to suck as much of the juice out of that time as possible. But the thing that really got me into that state of learning and understanding that my time was my most precious commodity was dying, and then coming back and realizing that life can be over in a second. It can be over like no tomorrow. Anything can happen. Like, you know, literally, I could walk out on the road, the bus could not see me, and that could be splat. Like, you know, it could be over in a second, in all sorts of different weird and wonderful ways. It could be over in a second. I don't know how much time I've got. I don't know how much time I've got with my family left. I don't know how much time I've got available to me. I just know that I have this moment. And I just know that this moment is my most valuable moment, because I don't know if I'm going to get a next moment. I could have an aneurysm right now on live. I'm not going to do that, but those things could happen. They're not going to happen. I'm like cutting that off from now. They're not going to happen. But again, my point is, we don't know. We don't have a crystal ball that tells us how many days, weeks, and hours we actually have. And tell me, if you knew that this was your last hour, how much would you charge for that? If this was your last hour with your loved one, how much would that cost? How much would you pay for that? Or how much could somebody else pay you for that last hour? I could tell you, if it was the last hour with my dad before he died, no one could pay me enough money for that last hour. If it was the last hour holding my baby's hand before she died, no one could pay me for that hour, because that time is invaluable. It is your most precious commodity. Your time is always your most precious commodity. We don't know when our last hour will be with our loved ones and with ourselves. And so knowing that, I transformed my thinking about charging prices, because the information that I have is years of collated knowledge. It's 17 years or even more than that, but 17 years of really consciously thinking about natural health and how to use my brain and how to use, you know, food to fix our bodies and to heal our bodies. It's 17 years of knowledge. And that is invaluable for some people, especially some of the people who I've seen be able to have moments with their kids that they've never had before. You know, where their child is on the spectrum and they've never had a moment where the family could go out together without their child self-harming because they were so overwhelmed with the stimuli. And now they can. The moment where they're, you know, frustrated and they're upset and they're concerned for their family member, and then their family member gets better. That is invaluable knowledge and invaluable health and wealth for them. And so when it comes to charging a fee for what it is that I do and for what it is my fellow practitioners do, there has to be a price for that. And I love that Kerry is saying, yes, I'm currently pregnant for what feels like the 38th month. I know those feelings 7 times over. I totally know those feelings. But on the other side, once that baby is out, it goes so quickly. And that time is precious. And so for me, when I think about giving time to my clients and giving time for free and giving time to people for all sorts of different things, I think about it in the sense that this time is the time with my family. And if I'm taking time for my family to be able to give it to my clients, they need to be rewarded for that time. They need to be compensated for that time. And that compensation can come in that financial exchange where we get to do as a family something that we don't normally get to do, like go to the movies. For us, as a family of 9, going to the movies is a minimum of $150. And that's without popcorn, it's without drinks, it's without anything else that we might do. It's just for those 2 hours. It's $150 just to buy the tickets for my family to go to the movies. And so charging a fee actually is not just about me and what I know and how valuable my services are. It is also about honoring my children and honoring the time that they essentially is sacrificed for them, for me to be able to do the work that I love. And so there's an energy exchange that takes place. So when we're charging that fee and we're actually asking people to pay for our time, what we're really doing is creating an energy exchange that says our time is valuable, it's precious, it's our most precious commodity, and I'm going to give some of that up because you are a human being and I love you and you are precious, but there needs to be something for my family or some type of energetic exchange involved in order to honor both of our time. The other thing that I want to say in this is that because I charge for my time, there are things that I can do for free, like these conversations. I can come and have these conversations and know that my family has been rewarded. I'm able to give away some of my time and actually be able to have that reward my family too. But the other element that I really want to talk about is this. When I was first starting, and here's some of my own learnings, was when I was first starting in the health and wellness sort of space, I had loads of friends who would ask me for advice. They would say, hey, I've got this thing, can you help me? And I'm like, sure, I know how to deal with that. Let's have a conversation. And I might spend hours actually talking to them, figuring out all the little bits and pieces that they needed to know, all the things that needed to happen, and tell them all the things. And I would spend, easily sometimes a couple of hours on Messenger, actually talking them through the thing. Or sometimes they would be in my home and I would teach them how to do the thing. And then what I would see would be that they jump on, like, say, a Facebook group or something. And in that Facebook group, they would be going, hey, does anybody know how to deal with this? Does anyone know how to do something with this? And I was like, what? I just spent like 2 hours telling you how to do that. And they weren't respecting or honoring my time. So I would give them this stuff out of the abundance of my heart, wanting to see them well. So essentially, I was stealing time from my kids to give to somebody in order to be able to help them be well, and they didn't respect it. They would, go and ask for advice in a million different places. They wouldn't actually action the thing that I told them to action. And then somewhere along the track, what I would see as well is that they then pay somebody to tell them either the exact same thing that I had told them or some other crap that was not useful to them, but they did it because they paid somebody to tell them that information. And I got to this moment of really realizing that they didn't respect what I had to share with them, and they didn't action it because it didn't cost them enough. It wasn't valuable for them, and they didn't honor and respect my time, and they didn't honor and respect the time that I had pulled from my family in order to give to them because they were a precious human being. They didn't honor that, and they didn't respect that. But also, they didn't honor and respect themselves by actioning that information that I gave them. And some of them did, like they'd give it a go for a few weeks and then they'd stop, and then they'd pay somebody to get them doing it again for a few weeks. And I'm like, if you need to pay somebody in order for you to look after your own health, it might as well be me. And that's when I really learnt that valuable experience of everyone has to invest in themselves, whether it be $5 or whether it be $2,000 or whether it be $10,000. The investment is actually in self. The investment is, I'm putting some money down and I'm going to make that valuable. I'm going to do something with that investment. And so actually charging them is honoring them, along with this idea of It's the law of reciprocity, which means that, and you might know this for yourself, where somebody has given you something and you feel like you have to give back to them. Like you feel like you actually owe them something, like you're in debt to them. And that's actually the law of reciprocity. And a lot of people don't really understand, but they actually live out of the law of reciprocity all of the time. So if somebody's baked a meal for you, then you're more likely to actually bake a meal for them, just because there is this pulling to actually give back. And so when we don't ask for a financial reward for the things that we're doing as well, the law of reciprocity is outbalanced. And so people stop asking for the help, or stop receiving the help, or stop getting the help, because the seesaw of balance is out of balance. And they're like, oh, I feel like I'm being a burden. I feel like I'm taking too much. I feel like all of those yucky feelings, and there becomes some ambiguity in the relationship. And so they kind of pull out of the relationship, or they pull away from it because there's these yucky vibes around it. Whereas when they've paid, they go, no, I feel like I'm allowed to. I've paid to be able to have these conversations with you. I've paid to jump in your Voxer and talk with you. I've paid for that. And there's an actual energy exchange that feels good for both parties. So that's another aspect of when it comes to charging for the things that we do. So for me, time is our most precious gift. We never know when it's going to be over, and no one could pay you for the last hour on earth. No one could pay you for the last hour with your loved one. That's how valuable your time is all of the time, because you don't know when the last hour is going to be. You might be lucky and have a loved one who has got an illness that is slowly happening, and you know that there's going to be an end. But for many of us, that's not always the case. Many of us will have accidental deaths, or some type of emergency or something like that, where we have no idea that that's the last hour. And if we did know that that was the last hour, we probably would behave differently, and no one would be able to buy that hour from us, because that's how precious your time is, every single hour. So our time is our most precious commodity. There has to be an energy exchange when it comes to paying for our services. There has to be some type of energy exchange, and the currency that we actually work in right now is money. Money is the currency that we're currently working in. Previously, we worked with a barter system, and it might be, I've got some beans and you've got, something else that we want, and I've got to make enough beans valuable for the thing that you've got that we want. And, it was really challenging and it was really hard. And so they invented money to make it easier. Except with our mindsets, we tend to stuff that up and make it harder instead of easier. But that's for wealth amplification, and you're welcome to join that. Let me know if you want to be in my next wealth amplification workshop. But money is the energy of exchange that we currently have. And there has to be some reciprocity for those things, so that we remove the ambiguity from what it is that we do. Plus, I've got 9 children. They need to eat, and they eat a lot of food, I can tell you now. So there's some of my thoughts about charging for our services. The answer is you need to charge for your services. That's how it is. It feels good for both parties. It feels good for me to actually sign up to somebody's program and invest in myself. And if it's not quite enough, I can tell you sometimes I don't do the work. But when it is the right price that actually moves and motivates me into action, I'm there. I'm doing the work. I'm making this money turn into gold. So think about that if you're a practitioner or anybody else who's in a small business and you are quibbling or kind of feeling a bit awkward about asking for some energy exchange for the energy you're pouring out and pouring into the people that you're working with. Clear that stuff up, clear up any of your own money mindset. And remember, it makes people feel good to be able to invest in themselves. And that's what you're providing, an investment in themselves so that they can take the action that they need to take. There's no skin in the game. They're not really there. All right. That's it for me. I would happily take any questions if you've got them, or any comments. Please feel free to put them below and come back and I will come back and have a look at them. And hashtag replay if you're watching on replay. See you later. Bye for now. Come join me on Clubhouse.